We all know that the Lakers are trying to acquire Kyrie Irving in some sort of Russell Westbrook trade, right? Kyrie Irving is the grand prize this offseason, and the idea is to trade Russell Westbrook, whether they get Kyrie Irving or not. And it is being reported that the Lakers have reached out to 3 teams and have discussed conversations about trading Russell Westbrook to those teams. Obviously, the Lakers are still going to wait, and they're going to see what happens with Kyrie Irving, because again, that's the grand prize. They don't want to end up making another trade and then Kyrie Irving gets traded for like a bag of chips somewhere else. And it's like, man, if we would have just waited another day, another week, then we would have gotten him. Problem is it's a very fine line. It's like, how long do you wait for Kyrie Irving? Do you give it till, a week before training camp? Do you go into training camp? Do you give it till the end of the month? And that's something that Rob and the Lakers are going to have to figure out. Now, I know many Laker fans want the Lakers to just get a deal done, get Westbrook off the team, all that stuff. But we still are about a month and some change away from training camp and the end of the offseason. So there's no need to rush. And I do think the Lakers are doing the right thing by just staying patient. Be patient. Let's see what develops. Let's see what unfolds. Earlier today, there were reports of the Boston Celtics going after Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant gets traded, all of a sudden those dominoes could start falling. Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, and then all of a sudden Kyrie Irving. All of these pieces could be gone by, this time next week even, if Boston decides to give in to what the Celtics want for Kevin Durant. So the Lakers are smart by being patient. But in the 3 teams, obviously, one, we already know of the Indiana Pacers. They would trade 2 first, Russell Westbrook for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. Indiana wants the 2 first-round picks. Now, of course, there's always ways to kind of go about that. Maybe you add some protection. Maybe at some point you find a happy compromise. It's like, hey, we don't want to give you both first, but we'll give you, a first and a pick swap, and or a first and 3 second rounds, something like that. And they find a happy medium. That's always a real possibility. But right now, the Pacers are standing firm at we want 2 first-round picks. Basically, you're giving us 1 to take on Westbrook, and then you're giving us another 1 to take on Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, that kind of thing, which wouldn't be a bad trade. In my opinion, this is the best trade next to the Kyrie Irving trade. And based on reports, if the Lakers cave to the 2 first-round picks, this deal is ready to go. But again, being patient doesn't hurt. This deal likely isn't going anywhere. Teams aren't rushing to the door to take on Buddy Hield's, contract of $40 million over the next 2 years. He doesn't provide much outside of shooting, and his shooting percentage dropped last year. So there's questions of can he get it back up? On a team like the Lakers, I do think he will, because he's going to get more open looks than he's probably ever gotten playing next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Miles Turner would be a huge upgrade over all the centers they have now. Now Anthony Davis can also play power forward full time. It's a mutually beneficial thing. Miles Turner, because he can shoot, he can block shots, all of that stuff, he can also play power forward. He's played power forward for quite a heavy dose with the Indiana Pacers. So he's a guy that could be interchangeable if need be. Davis is likely going to miss 20-plus games this season. So having a guy of Miles Turner would be a huge benefit, because you got that guy to kind of make up for the lack of Anthony Davis. But same thing, teams aren't rushing to go and trade for Miles Turner, not because Miles Turner isn't great or anything, of course he is, but he's an expiring contract. And so, how many teams want to trade for a guy like that, and then he ends up leaving and going elsewhere next season because he wants to contend or something like that? It's hard to get that deal done. But I do think that this is the most favorable deal out of all of them. If the Lakers can't get Kyrie, I think the Lakers should pivot to this deal. But next up was the Utah Jazz, and it's something along these lines of Mike Conley, Malik Beasley, and then Bojan Bogdanovic. And then the Lakers would give up, the 2 first-round picks, Russell Westbrook, and then Talen Horton-Tucker, get a point guard to kind of replace Russell Westbrook. Not just that, but Mike Conley would be a better fit. Concerns of age, history, injury history, stuff like that. And Mike Conley's on a bad contract. If Mike Conley was on a 2-year, $20 million a year deal, maybe. I don't think that this trade is that big of an upgrade. Don't get me wrong, Malik Beasley and Bogdanovic are both 2 great players. I would love to have them on the Lakers, but if you're taking on Mike Conley, that messes up your future flexibility, and it just, I don't know, it wouldn't be in my opinion, wouldn't be the greatest trade ever. It's not bad. If this is your 3rd option, then I think it's okay. But also in all of these deals, these could also be leverage plays to help go get Kyrie. Like, so say that the Nets, they want Bogdanovich and Beasley. Okay, well, we'll trade Bogdanovich and Beasley and throw in Kendrick Nunn or something and go get Kyrie Irving, and now maybe you keep Mike Conley, and Mike Conley's your backup point guard. I think Mike Conley would be arguably the best backup point guard in the league. He's also a guy that in certain situations you could play Conley and Kyrie if you want. Let Kyrie play shooting guard, Conley could play point guard. I'm not saying you do it in heavy dosage, but it would be something that could work. You'd have to kind of make all the pieces fit and stuff and salaries and stuff, but the Lakers could get there if need be, and I don't think that this would be, again, leverage play. Same thing with the Indiana Pacers trade, right? Like, if the Nets want Miles Turner, well, we can get Miles Turner, and now you end up with Buddy Hield and you end up with Kyrie Irving. Again, it's just pieces that could all fit. You could kind of work it into a 3-team deal. Could be beneficial for all sides. And then the last trade is the New York Knicks trade. Now, this would only happen if the Knicks end up landing Donovan Mitchell. If the Knicks land Donovan Mitchell, then they need to dump salary for like RJ Barrett so he can get an extension. And then obviously they want to build around Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, and RJ Barrett. But they have all these long-term contracts and Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose. So you basically get those three, give those three up, take on Westbrook. The Knicks would probably also give the Lakers a first-round pick. And I think this trade would be the most likely to get Kyrie Irving next to the Miles Turner trade, just because you would likely get another first. So now, if you're the Lakers, you're not giving up any firsts. So you could actually then go do whatever other deals you want, like just go trade for Buddy Hield and, maybe just go trade for Kyrie Irving. There's more options, right? Because the Lakers would now have 3 first-round picks, 2 of theirs, 1 from the Knicks, which it doesn't have to be the Knicks. It could be, they have a whole treasure chest full of picks. Like, which one is the least favorable out of all of them? Here you go, you can have that pick. Lakers get that pick. They have Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, and Derrick Rose. You take that and you go to the Nets and you say, hey, we get Kyrie Irving and maybe, Joe Harris, and you can have, the Knicks pick we just got, and you get one of our firsts, and then, take your pick between these guys. You want all 3? Do you want 2? Maybe they want Fournier, maybe they want Rose and Randle, right? And they're like, we'll take on Rose and Randle, because Randle, if he can get back to being, not the guy last year, but the year prior, he was a 40% triple-double three-point shooter. Like, he was playing just ridiculous stat line. If you could get him to kind of do that in Brooklyn, then you got a real all-star on your team in replacement for Kyrie Irving. You also get a guy in Derrick Rose who, he's not as good as Kyrie, but he offers a lot of the same thing. Get you that point guard play. He's a slashing guard that can get to the rim. Rose's shot has improved a bit over the years, so you can kind of get there. And then if they want Fournier, great, you get Fournier. Maybe you swap Fournier for Joe Harris because Joe Harris has a lot of questions with the ankle surgery and stuff. So maybe they're like, yeah, we'll take Fournier, you take Harris, and the Lakers could just get there. Now, you got 2 firsts to send to the Nets, and it's just, in that case, it'd be a win-win, because now the Knicks, they get their salary dump, right? They buy out Westbrook, clear their cap books for, the 2023 season, and then now the Lakers, they get their guy in Kyrie, and then the Nets, they get a couple firsts, and they get, some role players that they need because they have to remain competitive. They're a team that can't lose. They can't tank. So they need assets. So, a Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, and Evan Fournier, at least they're guys that can compete, that can be well. And if Randle could get back to being the Randle that he was, that's huge for the Nets. But that also would be a good trade chip. So, that could be your leverage play there. If you're the Nets, maybe, another team wants one of these guys, Nets can kind of leverage that. My point is that there's opportunity here for it to get done. And at the end of the day, at this point, I think you do have to move off of Westbrook. I don't think there's many options in that department. I think, you got to do what you got to do. And the thing is, though, I don't want to see the Lakers take on a bunch of bad salary, and then it ruins any flexibility for the future. Because the last thing you want to do is get locked in to 3 or 4 guys that are on long-term extensions, right? Like, let's say you do the Knicks deal, but you can't trade for Kyrie. You're locked into Julius Randle, who doesn't fit, Evan Fournier, who, yeah, he could be solid, and Derrick Rose. But now if LeBron leaves, you're in the Luol Deng, Timothy Mozgov situation all over again. You got a bunch of bad contracts. You're not a contender. You have no draft picks. Like, it's just, it would be terrible. It wouldn't be a good spot. So, I don't want to see the Lakers, as much as I know people want Westbrook traded no matter what. Trade him for a bag of chips, whatever you got to. The thing is that you don't want to ruin the future of your franchise and competing to just try to get rid of Russell Westbrook. You're better off just sending Westbrook home or trying to make it work, and then his salary's off the books, and then you go sign Kyrie Irving the following season or something like that. Because, like I said, you take a bunch of bad contracts and say LeBron's like, I can't win with this team, and he's gone. You're salary cap strapped. You have no salary relief. You can't sign anybody to replace LeBron. You can't do anything. You're just in a terrible situation. That's why I also think the Indiana Pacers trade would work, because if it does work and you're a contender, then maybe LeBron stays, especially if you win the championship, LeBron probably stays. And if you don't, at least LeBron's money falls off and Miles Turner money falls off. So you have cap flexibility. You can kind of figure something out. You wouldn't have a max to go sign Kyrie, but maybe Kyrie and LeBron would take less money to make it work, and you can re-sign Miles Turner. Like, you get what I'm like? There's ways to go about it. And, we'll see. I mean, I think that some of the other trades, the Mike Conley thing, same thing, kind of worries me. It's like, he's got a not very great favorable contract. So I don't want to see that happen. But I don't know. We got to be patient. We'll see what develops. But as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? What do you think the Lakers should do? Which one of these three trades do you favor the most? Is it the Pacers trade? Is it the Knicks trade? Is it the Jazz trade? However you feel about it, let me know down in the comments. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.